content over everything.
Can we just talk about that now? Yeah, so basically I got my Sikh brother Manny Sinda, and big up to him as well. And so he's got his own channel, so go on there, big him up as well. And so basically, we'll give COE a little bit of money, man. So basically, what we're talking about today is the plight of the Sikhs in Afghanistan. Now, 3 or 4 days ago, there was an attack on the Sikh community, which only numbers 1,000, and 17 of them were killed. 2 were Muslims as well. So before we go on, I don't want any of this, oh, you're an Islamophobe and crying and wetting your panties about me talking about an issue. The point is, there is a problem within Afghanistan with ISIS. They are attacking Muslims as well. I know that. So stop writing in the comments, Muslims are being attacked. We know this. These guys are the Khawarij, I know that, but they're still attacking the Sikhs. Yeah, and so when you have a population of only 1,000, 17 going from that is a massive blow to that community. So I'm going to talk to my brother here. I'm not sure how much you know. Do you know quite a bit about it?
I know a little bit, not as much as you, but yeah. I've been aware of the issues over the years, and it's not a new issue in Afghanistan. Sikhs have been targeted by the local communities there for a good number of years. It's mostly religious based, and there's been issues, certainly in the 40s, that reports I heard that some of the local community would approach the Sikh families and ask for them to hand over their daughters. There's not a lot of information on that. It's more, you know, local community type of information being handed down. But obviously more recently, like you've said on one of your videos, that Sikhs were asked to walk around with yellow stars or yellow signs on them, which is obviously very similar to what the Nazis did to the Jews in Germany. So there's cremation issues. They're not allowed to cremate their dead. One recent story was a girl's body had to be sent to Pakistan to be cremated because the local communities did not allow any cremation sites to be party to any Sikh. So you know, it's very, very dark. It's very, very ugly. It's a dark force there at the moment, and it's not by coincidence the Sikh community has been pushed out, because they have. They've been pushed out, and they've been going over to India to start their lives there, and it's unfair. And it's not. We're not here talking about it just because they're Sikh. If they were Christians, or if it was a Muslim community in a Sikh area or anything else, we would be standing here talking about it. But you know, quite rightly, we're highlighting it. There is a big, big danger to their lives at this moment, and they're being pinpointed. Yeah, I mean, for me, I've known about this for quite a while, because in Southall, you have a big Afghan Sikh community that have been slowly trickling into the UK. Now, they're not just coming for economic reasons, they've been coming because they've been persecuted. Now, before I go in, I know I get a lot of stick from people saying, oh, I've made a mistake here or there. I'm a human being, so I'm just going to say what I have researched. So if I have made a mistake, don't start crying, just tell me, and I'll rectify it in the future video. So basically, from my understanding, in the 1990s, there were 250,000 Sikhs and Hindus in Afghanistan. And they were living relatively peacefully until the Taliban. Obviously, you had the Soviet invasion as well, which is a complete disaster. We can't go into that. But then you had the Taliban taking over. And from the 1990s until today, that population of 250,000 has dwindled down to 1,000. Now, you've got to ask yourself, why are the people leaving in mass droves? One of the reasons, obviously, before anyone starts getting triggered, don't heckle me, there is a problem with Islamic extremism from the Taliban. There are stories, first-hand account of Sikhs being subjugated with jizya, the jizya type, boo, jizya. Yeah, sorry guys, I don't like that stuff, yeah. Then, never pay jizya. But the thing is that they are subjugating them with jizya. On top of that, there have been stories of, there's been stories of men with long beards, Sikhs, having their moustaches trimmed off, because that's more of an Islamic thing. Sikh girls, when they're walking down the road, they had their ponytails chopped off, which is against Sikhism in terms of, you know, having your long hair. And so even in terms of the laws and stuff like that, they're being kind of like oppressed, and the government is doing nothing to help them.
Can I ask a question? How long has Sikhs been in Afghanistan?
They've been there since probably, I think, like, since Guru Nanak Dev Ji, which is like the 14th, 15th century.
It's a complicated answer, that, because you've got the Indo-Scythian being there going back thousands of years. There's stories that the locals converted to Sikhism. There's stories where they went there from India as traders. So,
what's their homeland now?
I mean, at one point in Afghanistan was Hindu and Buddhist. So there was a point where it was Hindu and Buddhist, and then obviously when the Islamic conquest happened, they had to go for Afghanistan. So that then got converted to Islam. And so obviously we won't go through that touchy subject of 150 million dead over 800 years. We'll try and skip that over for today. We'll talk about that next time. I don't want no arguments with Adnan Rashid or anything. So basically we're trying to highlight a situation that obviously when we see other people getting attacked, we do feel empathy and we do feel upset. But there is something about, you know, when somebody who's from the same religious faith as you and the same ethnic background, whether that's right or wrong, it does resonate slightly more, unfortunately. And so the reason why we're coming on there is because obviously it's going to affect yourself a bit more. And I know of Sikh families in Southall that must have known some people from Afghanistan because it's such a small community down there. So what's your kind of take on what the government's doing though? Because I know the government is kind of like putting their head in the sand.
Well, if the government is not able to do anything, which they aren't, which tells us that the Taliban and the other extreme groups are still in charge. Yeah. Whether they are in charge officially or unofficially is irrelevant. The fact that these gangsters, because they are gangsters, running around and doing what they're doing, it's disgraceful. I do
want to say one thing before we go, because to get a balanced view, I did watch a documentary about there are Afghan, like literally women in little villages, like Muslim women, that have to arm themselves and their kids because of the Taliban coming in trying to conquer their villages and stuff. So this isn't just towards like the minorities, the wider Muslim community is suffering as well. But obviously we're highlighting a plight of, you know, if you have a population of 250,000 and then it goes down to 1,000 within 30 years, that is a massive issue that needs to kind of be highlighted, and no one's really talking about it. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Luckily, like when we're down here, we've got this kind of space to talk about it a bit more.
And a lot of the local communities in Afghanistan seem to think that the Sikh community are overly prosperous and they're kidnapping some of the children and wanting a cash payment to have them released.
But I have heard of stories of Muslims being kidnapped as well. There was a story that because I wanted a balanced view. I read a story of a whole family of 4 brothers were kidnapped and ransomed by the Taliban. So before everyone calls me Islamophobe all the time, I'm trying to be balanced, man, so give me a bit of credit. I'm an Islamophobe. I'm trying to be credit, man, so give me some credit. So I did see stories, so it's not just against Sikhs. The reason why it's more problematic with the Sikhs is because the community is so small and is being so attacked that, you know, it will get to a point that, you know, all of the Sikhs will have to leave. And we do have Gurdwara, temples, in that place that need to be, important Gurdwara, that need to be looked after. So you can't just have 1 or 2 Sikhs there. It's going to be very problematic for them.
And a lot of the Gurdwaras have been destroyed previously.
Yeah.
When the Soviets
There's only 2 left.
Okay.
So I think in the 90s there was probably over 30, 40. But there's 2 main ones left. I saw a kind of like a little document. I mean, one of the sad things that I've heard is that instead of the government trying to help the situation, what they're doing is saying we're going to get the Sikhs and the Hindus, and we're going to have a little sanctuary for them. So rather than dealing with the issue, they want to just plunk them up and move them out into a whole separate area. Which, that's not really solving an issue. What you're doing is just burying your head in the sand and hoping that nothing happens. So, I mean, what do you think of that in terms of, like, instead of trying to tackle the extremism, what they are now saying is that they want to get all the Sikhs and Hindus and maybe move them to a secure area where only Sikhs and Hindus live?
Look, I would say that at the moment, for the Sikhs to survive in Afghanistan, they need to move.
Right.
So if they want to be alive in the next few years, they need to move, and obviously the safest local community is in India, is in Punjab. I don't think the Afghanistan government or the regime is able to solve this issue. It's not possible for them. If it was, then the Soviets wouldn't have reached there, the recent Western forces wouldn't have reached there, you know, Taliban wouldn't be in control, so on and so forth. It's not possible for them to solve this issue. I think, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the religious places. I do strongly think that whenever a foreign population goes to any country, there's always a vacuum created. I mean, this vacuum in Afghanistan is not created by the Russians or by the West. I mean, just look at Fiji, for example. When the British left Fiji, same thing happened there. Now they have a communistic military regime there, right? So, you know, Punjabis, you know, they've been through a lot with the Indian establishment, and Britain is possibly going to go through it now. You know, with all the whole truth movement. So politically speaking, I'm not sure there is a solution, but I'm a bit worried about anybody that's facing an extreme group like Taliban. I beg your pardon?
What's the Afghanistan public say?
There's Muslims on the sides of Sikhs, obviously, but one of the biggest problems about not just the Muslims, but everybody, is silence.
Okay.
So when people are silent, it's just a bad trait of human beings that when something happens, you know, even in Nazi Germany, the mass public are too scared to say anything, and so crimes against you know, individuals and minorities just happen. It doesn't mean they're complicit in it; they're just not saying much.
So
and
no marches or anything like that. So
not that I know of. I know that obviously they're doing like stuff to kind of like highlight it within the Sikh community, but it's not going towards what I call the mainstream. There's not been no reports on it or anything.
ISIS attack. Did they say
it was ISIS?
Why they attacked?
Well, obviously, I mean, oh yeah, all right. So basically, there was obviously there was a population of over 250,000 in 1990, and then it reduced down to That's Hassan. It reduced down to it reduced down to 1,000. And one of the things was there was a guy, I've forgotten the name. His surname's Khalsa. He was a prominent politician. He was going to try and raise awareness for the Sikhs within Afghanistan. He was one of the people killed. Yeah, so I think it was a targeted attack, and a lot of people are saying that it did look like it was orchestrated, that the Sikhs all kind of funneled into a place, and then I'm not saying the government agreed to it, but a bit like sometimes when people turn a blind eye, and they might have let it happen. So the guy that was going to just about be elected for the minority is now dead, so there's no one there to fill that vacuum.
No, but the point I was making is that if ISIS are attacking the Sikhs because they want them gone, and you just said you want them to go, aren't you?
No, my point was, first and foremost, someone's safety is paramount. Right? There's no point fighting political battles.
ISIS want you to go, and you're giving up to them. You're saying
no.
A lot of Sikhs are saying they're not leaving.
Okay.
So there are Sikhs saying that, look, the Indian government has given, from my understanding, remember if I'm wrong, please correct me, don't start crying. From my understanding that they are giving asylum to any of the Hindus and Sikhs in the country, but a lot of them don't want to move because they see themselves as Afghans. So why should they move from the area? So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, but if they stay, they're going to be persecuted more. If they leave, they feel like they've lost a lot. So we have a lot of Sikhs in, if you go to Southall now, a lot of the Sikhs there are from Afghanistan. So they speak Pashtun, don't they, or a slightly different language. So has anyone got a question? Anyone from Afghanistan here? Anyone want to represent Afghanistan? Right, do you know why you're here? Because we've got a Sikh guy here. So we don't have Sikhs here very often. Can I talk about another subject quickly? Because one of the things that people always say to me is about India and why I don't classify myself as Indian. And I haven't done it before because I feel like, you know, I can't just talk to somebody, it's like talking to a brick wall. You need to have a bit of a back and forth with a fellow Sikh as well, because you'll probably understand why I don't classify myself as Indian. Now, the Indian government is giving sanctuary to the Afghan Sikhs, but in India, they're persecuting the Sikhs and other minorities. So they are hypocrites because, you know, on the one hand, they're condemning Afghanistan, but they're doing very similar thing in India and Punjab. Are they not?
They are, but Indian government has a history of doing that, but they don't just do it to Sikhs, they do it to...
That's what I said, all the minorities.
Yeah.
So we got the BJP and RSS in power, who are the enemies of all the minorities. So we have got something to kind of get together with in terms of the RSS and the BJP. One of the things they are trying to do is trying to dilute the Sikh population's kind of language, culture, history, and they want to make them kind of like into what I say is like a watered down kind of Hindu almost.
Do you have Sikh MPs in India?
Yeah, we do. I mean, the Prime Minister was a Sikh as well.
Are they going to say anything? Or?
No, a lot of them are in cahoots with the Indian government. And so we have a problem, even within the Sikh community, there's a kind of a split. So this is one of those topics that is very contentious within Sikhs. If you want to have an argument, you talk about India and Khalistan and stuff like that. Now, for me, because a lot of people don't really hear my views on Khalistan, I would love Khalistan. Khalistan is a separate homeland for Sikhs, but I'm pragmatic and a realist. If I don't feel something will ever happen, I don't want a pipe dream. Yeah, I want a realistic solution. Like, sorry guys, if you're Muslim, when I talk to people about Israel, it's a similar situation about Israel and Palestine. Their solution is, oh, we want to destroy Israel. It's never going to happen. It's always going to be here. So come to a solution where you can work. And the same with the Punjab. I've got my own kind of idea of how, you know, you can have a a separate Punjab or a Khalistan, but still stay within India per se.
But do you think it should be a religious regime, as in a Sikh kingdom, or should it be more of a democratic system put in place?
Well, I believe in secularism, so that kind of answers it. But I don't think Sikhism's morality is going to interfere too much. I mean, name me any kind of laws. Unlike Sharia, sorry guys, it goes against secularism. Sorry, I've got to give a little bit of a dig once in a while. So certain religions will go against secularism, whereas with Sikhism, there's nothing really, unless someone can write down that I can understand, but there's no restrictions of free speech, freedom of religion, there's no restriction in any... There's casteism within Sikhism.
So that's the thing with India, there's a caste system.
The caste system is prevalent within all Indian cultures. I'm ashamed of it. Like I go to the local Gurudwara temple, and it says Ramgarhia, and Ramgarhia is a caste, but they got it on top of a temple. And so for me, I'm ashamed of stuff like that. People ask me what caste you are, I say, what was it to you? You shouldn't answer it. The way you destroy the caste is never to answer the question what caste you are. Yeah. I mean, then people say, oh, well, you're Jamal. I'm like, big deal if I am. What's the difference? So this is how you kind of destroy it. So that's another issue within the Sikh community, that people say I don't talk about Sikh issues. I'm always bashing Sikhs. The caste system is a disgrace. The alcohol problem is a disgrace. I used to be an alcoholic up until 6 years ago, and I'm teetotal. And one of the ways I did it, so I know the Muslims are going to love this, is that I stopped hanging around with a lot of Sikhs. In terms of Punjabi culture, Punjabi Sikh culture, I kind of detached myself from it, and I haven't drank since. And so that's a little bit of criticism towards our own little kind of, I say, we have our own issues, yeah, that we have to deal with ourselves as well, and that is definitely with the caste is definitely high up on there. Alcoholism is definitely, I mean, one of the biggest killers of men within the Sikh community is actually alcoholism. The BBC done a documentary on that. We could talk about that when you come back in another time, but about the Indian government, let's bash India for a bit. Yeah. Because that's why I always bash India. But the thing about India at the moment is, you know, I always say I'm not going to classify myself as an Indian, yeah, but Punjabi until India rectifies X, Y, Z.
Which is not going to happen.
Then I'll never classify myself as Indian. So I'll probably be dead. I'm from the Indian subcontinent.
So do you not even classify yourself as a British Indian? That's what I do.
If I have to on the, you know, if there's no other option, I will. But when I classify myself, I always say I'm a British Punjabi Sikh. Obviously, one of the main reasons about Punjab is that, you know, obviously they classify, if you look under the constitution, Sikhs are classified as Hindus.
Yeah.
This is quite an easy thing to rectify, but for some reason they won't separate the Sikhs from Hindus. They want to bunch us all together, which is a big issue, yeah, because we are not Hindus, we are Sikhs.
Where's your ancestry from?
Obviously, my ancestors would have been Hindu, and they would have been Indian. This is more political.
I disagree with that. But
this is more political. Yeah, we don't have to agree, but that's more political. I'm not saying I'm not Indian genetically. I'm saying I don't believe in India as it is at the moment, because the way Punjab is being treated, I cannot accept the way the Punjab is being kind of butchered. I mean, you have to understand, imagine your homeland, it's kind of like being cut into 4 or 5 pieces. Then they've taken all the water that is supposed to be meant for that particular area into all the other states. You contribute only 1% of the population but make up 15% of the army. All the highest decorated regiments are Sikhs. Yeah, all of the wars that were against Pakistan were won mainly by Sikhs from the Punjab. Yeah, and even Pakistanis would admit that because we're on the border.
So you're proud to be Indian then?
I'm proud to be Punjabi Sikh, and I'm proud of Indian history. Yeah, but I don't agree with India as a country at the moment until they rectify. They're trying to trip me up until they rectify those particular areas, because India is being, Punjab is being mistreated. I mean, since 1984, there was a march here about 1984, and 1984 was when the Harminder Sahib, the Golden Temple, was attacked, and thousands of people were killed. And since that time, not a single person has gone to court or been arrested or convicted for a death of a Sikh. Not even one. And it's been 34 years. And so the reason why the Sikhs are so annoyed is that there are people walking around in India right now that we know of, even a high-ranking politician who openly admitted on camera that he was part and parcel of actually killing hundreds of Sikhs. They all instigated it, and that person still hasn't been brought to justice. So there's a whole kind of melee of things that the reason why I don't classify myself as Indian. I will do a separate video on my channel, Raj Speaker's Corner, so I'll go a bit more in depth because obviously we can't really go. I mean, what's your particular stance on the whole kind of Khalistan and the Punjab and everything?
I think it's a complicated subject.
Yeah.
If say we talk theoretically, if Punjab was to become Khalistan, then it's landlocked.
Yeah.
It doesn't have access to the ocean, and whenever that happens, the country suffers economically. If it did want to, then teaming up with Rajasthan, and then that becoming one country would be more beneficial for both Rajasthan and Punjab, because it has access to the ocean. And plus, genetically, Punjabis and Rajasthanis, the Rajputs, it's all genetically from the same source. So it's doable, you know. And Rajasthan can't survive without the waters from Punjab anyway.
I think Gujarat and Rajasthan are taking most of the water anyway.
How much of the population is Sikhs?
In India, I think it's 20.
No, in Rajasthan.
No, we're saying that the majority population or the main groups in Rajasthan are Rajputs, which is really a Hindu tribe, but they're genetically their genetics are same as Sikhs.
In the area that is called Khalistan, how many percentage are Sikhs?
What, in Punjab?
Yeah.
I think it's around 70%. There's a big Hindu population.
It's decreasing because the easiest way to go abroad in India, go live in Punjab. The minute a Punjabi applies to get a visa, work visa or anything, bang, they're gone. I went to military school in Punjab in the 80s, and everybody was Sikh, was Punjabi, big solid turbans. You go there now, there's hardly anyone. So they've all been exported to different countries. And I think that's a problem, and that's strategic. That's been done in a strategic manner. Just like the young people, young men were killed in the 1984 terrorist issue because they wanted to dilute the Sikh Punjabi community, weaken them. And we also got to remember it's not just the Indian establishment that did that. They did rely on the British establishment to advise them. Indira Gandhi did seek advice.
Well, we found that out last couple of years, isn't it?
But it's been obvious. It became official recently, but let's face it, the Sikh community are very pro-political, they're very intelligent when it comes to these things, and we knew. We knew that.
And it was a disgrace because the Sikhs are some of the most loyal
that's right,
people
especially to
the
Britain.
UK, so it's not something that, you know, I mean, obviously we knew they probably did because Thatcher isn't something that you could be trusted with. But
the reason I asked the question was that you saw what happened to Kashmir, Hindus and Muslims. You could easily have that in so-called Khalistan. People who are not Sikhs might not want to live.
Yeah, this is why
Kashmir is a very Kashmir is very. It's a fake story that Kashmir is a water war. The reason, because all the water and rivers that comes to North India comes from Kashmir. So the India and Pakistan divided it, not because they wanted to help anybody or they hated each other, it was to take control of the rivers. So that's what Kashmir is all about. It's the world's first water war. So now India have been building super dams, have been building all these control channels for water. India, especially North India, is a floodplain. There's not all the wells and all the water in India.
Can I just interrupt? For you, talking about water may not seem that important, but for the Punjab, water is so essential to the farming that without it, and they're exporting it. So at the moment, I think 75% of the water is being taken out of the Punjab to other areas, and they want to take another 10%.
Yeah, that's what the point I was making. The point I was making is there's certain people in Kashmir, they want to live in India. Certain people in Kashmir, they want to live in Pakistan. Certain people in Kashmir want an autonomous region. And
we have the same thing in Punjab.
Easily happen.
No, so it's not easily happened. It's not easily happened. It really has happened. So this is why I'm saying it's a pipe dream. Okay. So a lot of people, before anyone starts going mad, I would love a Khalistan. But do I think it could ever happen in the way that they want it? No. You can have an alternative, which is that you can have a more autonomy within Punjab, and they can be given back the water, and places like Chandigarh and Haryana can go back, because there's certain areas that have been taken out of the Punjab, can go back to the Punjab. And if you can have more devolution and they can set their own taxes and stuff like that, then you can have more of a united India with an umbrella of country, like mini, like a bit like the UK.
Yeah.
You have like Scotland, that's completely devolution from the UK, and they can pretty much set their own laws and all their own taxes and stuff.
But each state in India has their own genetic makeup of the local community, have their own history. So it essentially should be their own country, arguably anyway.
Yeah, it should have been. I mean, the thing about India that people don't realise, I mean, the concept of India only really came about through the British. Prior to that, there was lots of kingdoms and you know, like chiefdoms and stuff like that. And so there's never really been a united India per se. So I never really agreed with the concept of having one India. I think that's why they're having so many problems with like people. Even in the south, they're trying to separate now as well. The Dravidians. Yeah. They're trying to have a separate kind of South Indian state as well. And they want to move because they've got a different language.
The South Indians are the original real Indians, the real Hindus. That's why they're. That's why they're genetically. That's why they're genetically. Different to the North Indians.
I don't know. 50-minute video on this, bro.
Can we talk about it next time, me and you? So let's talk about it because I want to have a conversation about. Are you talking about like the Aryan invasion? Yeah, let's talk about that next time. A brief, full conversation. Yeah. We'll go back later on, though. But let's shut this particular one off, yeah. Sure. And then this is a Sikh circle back. So there's only 2 of us, but there's still a Sikh circle. We don't need numbers. We just need individuals with strong sense of morality and a strong sense of knowing what's right and wrong. So, like I said, like my bro here, we're gonna have more conversations hopefully in the future and sensible conversations. So, if any other Sikhs want to come down and talk, don't worry, you can come down and we can kind of increase the circle a bit.
And I do want to say that Sikh, British Sikhs and British Indians and everybody needs to support Raj because Raj is at a pinnacle point of what he's doing. And he's representing not just the British Indian, British Punjabi community, but all British people.
Can I say something?
And he's hated, wouldn't it?
I love the hate.
He's hated, and that tells you what he's doing is right.
I love the hate. I love it. Bring it on, man. The more hate, the better.
And it's making him famous.
And can I say something, yeah? Right now, all the comments about you are probably nice. Once you said that, they're all going to be bad now. So watch the video. They'll say that guy seemed alright. Towards the end, once you support me, you're kind of like tarnished with the same brush. But bro, man, like I said, we'll do more chats anyway. Okay, and we'll get see. Does anyone know how to shut the video?
Yeah.
Content over everything from your humanity. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
You ascribe to me also that I'm making the insinuation that Muslims are savages. I hope you realise that I'm not doing that.
Fair enough.
Okay, so okay, that's good. And one of the other things you did in the comments section was you said that I was taking these sources